What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to episode 9 of the 2023 Halloween special. If you haven't yet watched the previous 8 episodes, I've linked them right up above. Please go and check them out. I've had a ton of fun doing them. And in this episode of the Halloween special, we are going to be talking about the film Smile, directed by Parker Finn, released in 2022. The film stars Sosie Bacon as a psychiatrist who, after witnessing a traumatic event with one of her patients, begins to suspect she is caught in the middle of a horrific mystery and being stalked by an uncanny entity. This movie is incredibly well made and employs many very old school horror filmmaking techniques. It gives very Hitchcockian vibes. Things like slow pans and Dutch tilts and very disorienting camera movements and angles to really set in stone the eerie tone that permeates this movie. The cinematography throughout the entire film is honestly breathtaking. There is not a scene in this movie that is not visually dazzling. It also has a terrifying setup. The opening 10 minutes of this film are genuinely some of the best that I've seen from a horror film in decades. Because it does a very good job at establishing and leaving no doubt in your mind that there is in fact a very dangerous threat present throughout the story of this film, but it still is ambiguous enough to get you hooked on what this mystery will be and get you on board to want to take this journey with our main character to figure out what is happening, what is behind all of this, why are these people experiencing what they're experiencing. It's genuinely very, very well set up. And that opening takes us to an awesome, absolutely kick-ass title card. It really does remind me of some of these classic 70s and 80s horror movies that I love so much. This entire movie, it's made very old-fashioned in many ways, and it is in a lot of ways paying homage to some of those paranoia mystery thrillers from the 70s and 80s that dominated that era of film. This movie also has chilling visuals and incredible sound design, and those two things are really all it relies on to build incredible scares, which this movie also has. Similar to the first Insidious film, this movie has visuals that are so chilling that they are just burned into my subconscious, and every now and then I will think of them when I'm trying to go to bed, and I probably will not get much sleep on nights when that happens. Something that actually really impressed me about this movie was how well written it is. A lot of people went into this movie just thinking it was going to be a fun, kind of cheesy, maybe not so great horror movie, but you know, it's rated R, it's an interesting concept, maybe we'll get some bloody death. But no, this movie is actually a very taut, well-written, well-thought-out thriller that keeps you on the edge of your seat for the entire duration of it. There's a dinner scene early on in the film that I think is really a testament to how well written this film is. The conversations and the exchanges between characters feels very natural and appropriate for the moment and the world that they've set up. I also adore how this movie manages to be extremely socially conscious without it being the main point of the film. The movie doesn't seem to let its messages get in the way of its mission to be a good, scary horror film, which is even more impressive when you consider the main premise of the movie, which is entirely latched on to subject matter that people are more wary of now, more aware of, and more socially conscious about, and it's also very sensitive subject matter. So it's very, very impressive that this movie balanced that line so well. Also, I must say, the lead performance by Sosie Bacon is absolutely incredible, though I shouldn't be surprised, her being the daughter of an absolute legend, Kevin Bacon. But still, it doesn't change the fact that her performance in this movie is incredible. She sells every single scene, and the entire movie is on her shoulders. I can't think of a scene that she isn't in. I'm pretty sure she has a major role in every single scene of the film. Her character goes on such a wild roller coaster of a journey in this movie, emotionally and physically, and it is just so impressive how well Sosie Bacon portrayed it. Something people have discussed with this film is its similarities to other films, namely the movies It Follows and the American remake of The Ring. And yes, those similarities definitely are there, undeniably so. I would say personally that It Follows is the movie that probably most inspired this film. But honestly, I don't really consider it to be that big of a problem with the movie. I think this movie has a lot of its own ideas, and it's just using other films as an inspiration to weave those ideas, those original ideas, into a narrative and execute them in a way that we haven't really seen before, and in a way that is unique to this filmmaker. And the way the tension and mystery builds in this film is so well done in an excellent slow burn fashion, which is very, very hard to do. It's hard to make a slow burn not boring, but I don't see how anybody could be bored watching this movie. There's really only one scene in the movie that I think maybe could have been trimmed down a little bit, but other than that, I adore the way that this film is paced. waste. This film also has a scene that is destined to be iconic, especially since 2022 is such a great year for horror films in recent horror film history. And though I will not ruin it, just in case you haven't seen this film, if you have seen it, the birthday party scene. That scene is already iconic in my opinion, and it also makes you genuinely feel so horrible for Rose's character. It is so well done. This movie does deal with a lot of very heavy themes and messages such as depression and suicide and looming mental illness and hereditary mental illness and things like that. And while I don't want my next point here to overshadow the rest of this video, I want to keep it fairly lighthearted. I will say that I have experienced these things firsthand throughout my life, and I think that the way the film handled it is very sensitive to those subjects while also making it work with the narrative that the story is trying to take us through. And it's not that the movie has a very positive message about these things. This movie is definitely more focused on the darker side of that stuff, particularly when it comes to aftermath and outcomes of certain events. There's one moment in particular in this film that really stuck out to me, and it's when Rose is at her place of employment and she just sees a sign on the wall, and it's one of those doctor pain rating signs where it's like, if you're experiencing no pain, you have a fully fledged smile on your face, and then the number 10, like worst pain ever, is like the biggest frown, and you're like, I really adore the shot of that sign in this movie where it shows the smile and it's saying no pain. And it's a very dark implication because obviously the main motif throughout this movie is that creepy ass smile that everybody does in this movie at some point. And while it is very dark and depressing, I do love that the filmmakers made it a point to show that idea of when a person is smiling, they have no pain, because when the people are smiling in this movie throughout this film usually means that they're about to die and about to, more specifically, end their own life, which is a very dark implication, and the implication being that when you are in one of those moments where you are comfortable making a decision like that, you really aren't in any pain anymore. You know, a lot of movies tend to portray moments like that super melodramatically with the character bawling their eyes out while holding, I don't know, some kind of sharp object or a gun or something, but that really is not how it is in real life. Unfortunately, I do know what it is more so like. When you're in one of those moments, you're not flailing your arms around, bawling your eyes out, you're entirely numb. It's impossible for you to feel any pain. So I really love that that's something that they brought attention to in this movie, because I also feel like that specifically is a point that a lot of movies that deal with subject matter like this are kind of afraid to touch on. Also, real quickly, this doesn't really have much of an effect on my overall opinion of the movie, but I do just want to say, just to get it out of the way, Rose's husband in this film is a dick. I do not like him. He treats her so poorly when she tries to confide in him, and he is just L husband for real. But I really cannot hit home enough how great the mystery is in this movie. It is so investing and so intriguing, and the entire time that I watched this movie for the first time, I was on the edge of my seat for the entire runtime. They build it up so well, and every time a new thing is discovered about it, you're like, oh my god, this just got 10 times more interesting. They do a really, really good job at the progression of this mystery, and also, they do a very good job at making it not really that predictable. Now, I mentioned that this movie has some amazing scares, and it really does. There are scares in this film that, in my opinion, once again, are already iconic, but they're also very well done, and as far as I can remember, not a single false scare throughout this movie, which is just so rare for horror films nowadays. And so once again, props to this movie for not giving in to that incredibly easy formula. Every scare in this movie is very well calculated, set up, and executed, and pretty much 95% of them got me. I also adore the third act of this movie, namely the finale and the ending in particular. I think is very well done, and a pretty ballsy way to end the movie, especially given the messages that the film is tackling. Just given those themes that this movie is trying to cover, it really is, it takes guts to end the movie that way, because I don't want to spoil anything, but it doesn't exactly leave you feeling very happy about life or optimistic about the future of helping people through depression and trauma. It kind of does the exact opposite. But for the nature of what this movie is, and for the tone and atmosphere that they set up throughout the entire thing, I think it works extremely well. And it's just brave of this movie to acknowledge the darker reality of things like this that a lot of people don't really want to focus on. But I think it is important to, and the fact that it did it so well through a horror film is even more impressive. Guys, I really can't praise this film enough. I think that it's insanely well made, and this is also, if I'm not mistaken, this director's feature debut, which is even more impressive. I feel like the word impressive has been the biggest motif throughout this review, but it's true, man. There's so many things about this movie that just blow my mind, especially considering that this is this director's first feature film. 2022 truly was an amazing year for horror, and this is just one of the many films that came out that year that I absolutely love. If you haven't seen it, give it a watch. I guarantee it will meet, if not exceed, your expectations. I am going to give Smile a 9 out of 10. Guys, thank you so much as always for tuning back into the 2023 Halloween special. Look forward to episode 10 of that special coming to you very, very soon. Thank you so much as always for watching. I will see you in the next video, and until then, keep writing, keep shooting, and keep editing.